Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Frederick County School Board's Finance Committee meeting to order. It is October 13th. The time is 5:31 p.m. We have an agenda before us. How would the committee like to proceed?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
And I second that motion. We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion passes. We have an agenda. Dr. Hummer, to you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, so much for that. We have 5 items for you this evening. 4 of them are for information only. We're going to provide you all with an update to our construction bond process, as well as our debt service fund projections as we work through the 4th high school, as well as our 2 elementary school projects, as well as future projects. We want to share with you where we currently are with each of those projects. We also have our debt capacity ratios, as well as the operating costs of the new school projection. So we're going to work through all of those pieces, answer any questions that you have, of course. And then we have one action item for you this evening, which is for the VPSA Educational Technology Fund resolution for us to spend a little over $500,000 to upgrade our technology. So with that, if you don't have any questions, Madam Chair, I will hand it over to Mrs. Anderson and her team. Thank you.
All right, so we'll jump right on in with an overview of the construction bond process. As you know, we're responsible for ensuring that our facilities are furnished and equipped for our students to provide an education. School divisions in Virginia do not have taxing authority, so anytime that we enter into debt for our facilities, that debt is issued towards the county in the county's name. And the Virginia Public School Authority is our vehicle to the bond market. They help us get access to bonds to finance capital projects at a low cost. So here's some information around the Virginia Public School Authority. It was established by the Virginia General Assembly. It has a AA plus bond rating, which signifies stable for investors. So it's good for investors, which turns out then is good for school divisions because it provides low-cost financing for our capital projects. Anytime that we have an approved funded project on the books, such as the 4th high school and our 2 elementary school expansion projects, we go out to bond market twice a year. And when we have a bond that is issued towards those projects, it is financed over 20 years. The VPSA is staffed and operated through the Virginia Department of the Treasury. And the VPSA is always looking for refunding opportunities for us. So think of that as similar to refinancing your mortgage on your home. So when those VPSA refunding opportunities come forth, we greatly appreciate the work that VPSA does to help us. They have access to the market to know when the market is good to make that refunding opportunity. Our most recent refunding that happened this year is going to save Frederick County just over $102,000 on 2 of our outstanding bonds from 2007 and 2008 because of a more favorable interest rate.
So essentially, VPSA does a lot of the lion's share of work for us, whereas if we did not have them, it would be on your team to do that.
You got
and that would
it.
be massively difficult. Okay. And just wanted to make sure I saw that correctly. It's staffed through the Virginia Department of the Treasury. So not only is this something that saves us money as a district, it saves the state overall and taxpayers overall money by having this entity go out to the bond market on our behalf.
We are grateful for VPSA.
Excellent.
Madam Chair. Is VPSA the only way we could get bonds?
VPSA is not the only way. VPSA is good for us for general obligation bonds at lower costs. It takes out the extra cost of issuance and the time, the administrative work to do that. But there are other opportunities. We could issue a local bond, but there are other ways in which to go to the bond market.
Madam Chair, if I may, so we actually met with the VPSA last year to ask those specific questions, and it's very interesting across the Commonwealth where not every school division goes through the VPSA if they actually have high bond rating process through purchases they've made over the course of decades. So you'll see in more high opulent areas, such as those schools in the northern part of that Coca line, a lot of them do their own bonding through their own county or through their own city council. It's interesting, and this was a question that we had with them, is that these bonds are through the county. They're not through us. So if there was a appetite to go out through another bond process, it would have to be the county that would have to take the lead on that. And at this moment in time, since the county has not done that, this is going to be the safest, the cheapest, and the quickest way to get these bonds for these projects that we need. It is conversations that we're having with the county, because as we see with future projects, it might be something to take a look at. We're just not sure of where that bond rating would be and what our rate would be, because we have not done that as a county. So it would be something for us to see if it would be beneficial for us to save the taxpayer dollar. At this point, VPSA is the way to go, unless the county wants to change that. That's a great question, Mr. Atkins.
So just to, if we went with a county bond, just to clarify, would we still have access to VPSA bonds? No, so
No.
it's one or the other.
Correct.
Correct. And one of the good things about VPSA, they're not only looking out for us, they're also going to the bond market for other localities. So when you pool all those bond requests together, it often results in a cheaper rate for us.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look for a way to make them compete against each other, you know? All right, that answers that.
So now you've gone through the process of the construction project approval for the Fourth High School and our 2 elementary expansion projects, So you're aware of those process steps now. It starts with our school board approving the construction project and the cost through our capital improvement plan, which we are about to embark on the next capital improvement plan here shortly. And once the school board approves that, we send a resolution to the Board of Supervisors for their consideration and for a public hearing for our constituents to weigh in on the request for those projects. And then the Board of Supervisors approve of the resolution for the project, the cost, and for us to go through VPSA for borrowing for those projects. And there are some things that the Board of Supervisors or the county will consider before they give that approval to ensure that our county has the financial capacity to take on more debt. So we've added to this presentation to give you an idea of what those financial capacities that they're considering in making those decisions. And then once those projects are funded, and we have the approval to go through VPSA to borrow, our team prepares the application. Again, we participate in the fall and the spring. Whenever we have a project, we don't borrow the full amount one time. And that is because once we get that money, it sets in a savings account, if you will, that earns interest. And because it's a tax-exempt bond, we can't earn more interest on the money that we're borrowing than what we're paying out. So we borrow it in 6-month increments, every 6 months, based upon the cash flow projected needs for the next 6 months.
Do we lock in the rate, the interest rate, with that first borrowing?
The interest rate is for that specific issue.
Okay, so say we get on the first payment for the Fourth High School, we get, let's say it's a 6% interest rate. The next one, if the economy goes sour, we could be looking at a 12% interest rate.
I'm going to show you those rates that we're getting here shortly based on those issues.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So here's the life cycle of a bond issue. It starts with finance working with our construction team to determine the cash flow needs over the next 6 months for that project. Then we submit the application to VPSA. That happens in the fall and the spring. And then once the bond application is approved, the monies are then deposited in that savings account that I was saying under the state non-arbitrage program. So that money stays in that account earning interest until we use it. And then what's occurring here at the school division, the construction team is getting the project done. We're paying invoices every 2 weeks against the project. And then we're submitting those reimbursement claims to SNAP to reimburse us for the money for those projects. And our team spends, say, every 2 weeks reconciling this activity. And I'm going to show you here shortly what that looks like. But first, back to your question about the interest rates. So here you can see the interest rates we've been experiencing based on those issues. And the most current bond issue that we had that we just participated in this fall, we just got the amortization schedules last week, and that rate is at 3.23%. So those are low rates.
So if we had built, I can't help but notice that May of 2021 number, that bond yield 1.53%. If we had built the, for example, the fourth high school in 2020, 2019, we would be looking at that bond yield rate
We would.
as opposed to what the 3.25% that you just quoted.
You're correct.
Yeah, what a kick.
Yeah.
Yep. So you heard me talk about that we can't earn more interest than we pay out. It's because they're tax-exempt bonds. We're a tax-exempt organization. The bonds are to be used for the public benefit, not for profit making. So it takes reconciliation on our part to ensure that we don't subject ourselves to arbitrage. So here's an example of a worksheet that our office maintains that captures the bond issue amounts that we received, and then, of course, the reimbursement claims that we have against it. And you can see that little red box down at the bottom. That's where we're measuring our likelihood to hit arbitrage. So we have to spend or get so much reimbursed based upon those dates. Here's another tracking worksheet that's by individual project for the life of the project. Again, it captures all the receipts that we get on the project, and then, of course, all of the accounts payable against the project. This ensures that we always stay within appropriation, as well as ensuring that we always have positive cash flow. And it's also a great communication tool to keep finance and the planning department together.
Yeah.
So here's an example of one of our recent larger projects that we completed. Robert E. Ayler Middle School replaced at $48.7 million was the amount that was appropriated for that project. And you can see actual receipts because that represents the amount that we spent on the project. So it's less than our appropriation. But what I want to point out is, see the bond proceeds amount? That's the amount that's financed. The premiums, interest earned, and transfer in amounts is free money for that project.
Ms. Anderson, can you go into detail about what the transfer in amount means? Where did it come from?
So the transfer in amount came from another capital project that came in under budget, and so this gives us an opportunity to save on future capital projects by lowering our borrowing costs.
Got it.
And then Indian Hollow, same example, $12 million project appropriated, and we're financing just over $10 million of that.
Quick question, Ms. Anderson. I know this is a different ball of wax than maybe a house, right? But is there any way that, and I'm not saying this is a good idea or a bad idea, I'm just curious about it. Can we borrow against our assets like you would if you wanted to get a second home, or, borrow against your assets to get another car or whatever? Can we borrow against our assets, our buildings, to finance another school?
I'm not aware of that.
I think through by Virginia State Code,
Probably not, but
Don't we
I'm-
have to have everything appropriated to us through the Board of Supervisors?
Well, before we can spend anything,
Yeah.
yes.
So we can't say like, you know, this school's worth X amount of millions of dollars, borrow against that to get to secure the loan to finance the next school.
No,
Yeah,
So,
I'm not-
Madam Chair, if I may, I mean, it's a good thought, but with the current asset, the issue is not getting the loan. The issue is appropriating the money to then go out for the loan. If there were issues where borrowers didn't want to give us loans, we would then say, hey, we'll put up our middle school here to show in good faith that
Right.
you're right. But the other piece is, I mean, that's essentially giving the taxpayers' property away, which I think would run into another issue.
Yeah, that's why I was confused if we could do it or if how that would work. I was like, and we can maybe not be hitting the taxpayers so hard if we did
Right.
it that way. All right, cool.
All right. So next, we're going to move on to debt service projections. You're also going to see this at your fall retreat when we'll start to introduce some of the things that we're seeing in preparation for the next or the upcoming budget. This is a slide that you've seen. This was our debt service fund. This is the fund that we use in which to pay the principal and interest back on the debt that we incur. And as you can see, it's funded by our county. And it's about $21 million, the total fund. As of June 30th, 2025, the total principal and interest that was paid during the FY25 covered 37 bond issues spanning about 12 different construction projects over the past 20 years. So here's a look at our debt service fund projections. I want to say that these are estimates, and it's based on the timing of our borrowing needs for the active projects that we have on the books, the Fourth High School, Middletown expansion, and Jordan Springs expansion. So notice in FY26 going to FY27 is a $1.1 million increase. And then you'll see, based upon the projects that we already have on the books that are funded, our debt service needs will peak in fiscal year 2030.
And if we are looking at putting up another middle school, it's going to increase more. Yep.
So we always want to make sure that we have that long-term range in front of you as we're making decisions for the budget.
No, I appreciate that.
So just wanted to take an opportunity to give you a 50,000-foot view of what our county and other counties, which is good financial practice, debt guidelines that they have, as well as these financial capacity ratios when they're making the decisions to enter into more debt. So our county's guidelines, debt for capital construction and improvements are repaid over the expected useful life of the project, right? So when we go to VPSA, we're paying that back over 20 years. Long-term debt is not used to fund current operations. And then using these debt capacity ratios to assess if the county is financially able to enter into more debt. So a payout ratio basically means that an organization aims to pay off at least 65% of its debt within 10 years to limit long-term interest costs. And then the debt to assessed value. So if you think about assessed value is the revenue generator for a locality, they tried to keep that ratio under 1.75%. And I could find in the county's annual comprehensive financial report as of June 30th, 2024, that's a year old now, but that value for the county was 1.113. So it's not over leveraged relative to the taxable property in the community. And then another ratio is making sure that debt service expenses compared to the total budget are reasonable. So each time that we bring a CIP project forward, this is something that the county is going to look at to take into consideration, which is good. Organizations have to have these type of financial benchmarks and metrics. So these debt capacities, like I just said, this is good practice for organizations to ensure stable finances, efficient use of our funds, as well as helps invest in the community, and it provides a level of predictability for our taxpayers. This is in response to a question, I believe it was Dr. Erskine who asked at our August or September Finance Committee when we were going through the year-end financials. The question that he asked was, how much of the county's debt is the school's debt? So again, almost a year-old information, we were 84% of the county's debt, which is an indicator of our growing community.
Ms. Anderson, how does this compare with other communities, other school districts that are building, such as Stafford? I think Albemarle is another one. 84% is a big number.
We'll be happy to get you that information.
Great, thank you.
So another feature that we wanted to give tonight is just the basis on how we go about evaluating new operating costs, again, because we're trying to give you that long-term view for planning purposes. Operating cost of new schools, such as the fourth high school, the obvious thing is that the bulk of the cost is in personnel. So you can see here a list of the various positions that we consider that align with our staffing standards and the unique needs of a building. What's not there necessarily is additional classroom teachers associated with enrollment growth. Because even without opening the new school and our student enrollment grows by virtue of the staffing standards, then the number of classroom teachers would also grow. So it's not necessarily a cost of opening a new school. It goes more with a growing enrollment. And then we have some operational costs to consider that you can see here: insurance, utilities, and supplies. What's not here is the cost of furniture, because that's part of the construction budget, so that when the construction is complete, the building is ready to be used. So based upon those variables, here are our best estimates that we know today for fiscal year 28, 29, and 30 for the opening of those projects.
Just to clarify, Jordan Springs, Middletown, is that an additional 2.2 and 2 million, or is that just the 2 million and 2.2 to operate?
It's an additional.
Additional.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
On
in
top of
addition.
operating.
I see
Yeah.
it right there
Yeah.
in big bold letters.
And that's the year, just to clarify too, Mr. Atkins, that's the yearly operating cost, not the project cost itself to those additions.
Right, that's for
Yeah.
teachers and whatnot.
Every year, yep.
Yep.
And also too, sorry, Ms. Anderson,
No,
if you could
you're
go back
good.
to that slide, just for the public too. We are increasing in enrollment, as we all are very much aware, hence these expansions and the addition of the fourth high school. So the 2.0, the 2.2, and the 10.3 million in operating cost, yearly operating cost, not all of those amounts will come from the locality. Not all of it will come from Frederick County. Because of the state SOQs, we will receive a large portion of that funding from the state. And hopefully even more after they recalculate the very antiquated SOQ calculation.
Yep.
So,
Just for clarity, because I'm not tracking with that. If a couple slides back, we're only getting 3% from state and federal on our budget. Okay.
Yeah, that's debt
okay.
service,
All
yeah.
right.
This is
yeah.
operating
I was going to
fund,
say because
yeah.
I thought before it's about 50-50.
We're 41.41 is our current LCI. So we pay 41%, the state pays the 64%.
Gotcha. Okay. Now I'm tracking.
Yeah.
Back on task.
All right, if there are no questions relating to the bonding process, we'll move on to an action item that we want you to consider. So we have for your recommended motion, the VPSA Educational Technology Funds. The state uses the Virginia Public School Authority for technology funding to modernize technology and to be able to replace technologies for schools. This has been going on for 20-plus years. So our budget includes $570,000 from the state, of which $544,000 is for Frederick County Schools and $26,000 for NREP. The state provides $26,000 for each school in the state of Virginia, as well as $50,000 for the division. We receive these funds in April, which often makes it difficult for us to spend before the end of our fiscal year. So what we have for you is a resolution for the board to approve, which allows us to spend money now on its intended purpose and then reimburse ourselves in April when the money becomes available. So these funds will be used to purchase networking equipment and Chromebooks and laptops, which are all acceptable uses of those funds.
Excellent. So, Ms. Anderson, just to clarify for the public, we know the money is coming. The check has been, how should I put this? The money has been encumbered to us, so it's coming to us, it's just not coming to us right now. So we know we'll get reimbursed, so we're just asking for permission to spend it now as opposed to spend it later so that we don't spend it foolishly on things just for the sake of spending it by a certain time.
That's correct. And
Okay.
this resolution allows us to take that money in April and reimburse ourselves. Yep.
I still think it's odd that we have to approve that. It makes sense to me, but anyway, we do. So we have a recommendation. How would the committee like to proceed?
Madam Chair, I move that the committee forward to the full board the request to approve the resolution declaring its intention to reimburse itself from the proceeds of one or more grants made by the Commonwealth of Virginia for certain expenditures made and/or to be made in connection with certain capital improvement.
Second. All right, we have a motion and it's been seconded. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes on to the full board.
All right, thank you. And if you have no further questions for me, I'll turn it over to Dr. Hummer.
All right, Madam Chair, thank you guys. If you have any other questions, we're available.
Mr. Chair, any questions? Sitting in the peanut gallery?
On his phone.
Yeah.
Got us.
He's good. All right. He knows you're fine. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, well, that completes our agenda for the evening. How would the committee like to proceed?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We're adjourned.
Appreciate it, guys. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.